Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Welcome to the Backlog, where we're trying to see and play every single video game that we missed the first time around on the live show. Let's go all the way back to 1975. And we were last in the arcade checking out Jet Fighter and actually playing Jet Fighter. Let's see what the next video game is. Let's go to Japan to see Bullet Mark released in the arcade. This is one I don't have any information on and not even a video, as you can see on the left side. Here's the advertisement flyer for Bullet Mark. Released at some time in October 1975, this is the 139th game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. It's the 106th game we've seen in the arcades, and look at this monstrosity. Look at how large this is, considering the other shooting games that we've played up to this point. This one is brought to us by Sega, the 7th time we've seen service games on Chronologically Gaming, bringing us things like Pongtron 1 and 2, Hockey TV, Clean Sweep, Balloon Gun, and Goal Kick. This is where computer technology combines with basic game appeal to provide top-earning performance. Thanks, Sega. That makes sense to me. Flip over the advertisement flyer, and you can see there's 4 series of targets that are going to appear sequentially over an oversized TV screen. What do they mean by oversized TV screen? Because Nintendo has done some light gun shooting games that are using film projection, and I'm wondering if this is the same idea. But does it say the TV size? I don't see it here on the back. But it says 2 authentic-looking Tommy guns with recoil effect like the real thing are mounted on the gun cabinet. So we've already seen light guns. We've seen those amazing rifles on the Magnavox Odyssey too. But Tommy guns, this is new. This is something we haven't seen before. This one is a multiplayer cooperative game. You get to play together, and it also has a single-player game. Being able to play by yourself or against a computer, but play cooperatively is also something that's very special. At this point, we've seen games like Robot, Knockout, Balloon Gun, Anti-Aircraft, and Challenge that give this kind of gameplay. Bullet Mark is the 1975 discrete logic light gun shooting game by Sega. It's similar to Sega's earlier Balloon Gun that we saw in 1974, but with twin Tommy guns and a wider variety of targets to shoot. Just like Balloon Gun, it has a first-person light gun shooter with a 2-player co-op gameplay. In Japan, Sega released 2 versions of this game, Bullet Mark and Bullet Mark II. Bullet Mark was Sega's first product to be manufactured in the United States at Sega of America factory in Redondo Beach, California. In the United States, it sold 10 arcade units in 1975 and 200 arcade units in early 1976 for a total of around 210 arcade units sold by early 1976. Due to its large size, it was a commercial failure in North America. Sega responded by developing a scaled-down version called Tracer in 1976. This game is also known as Rock and Bark, which I don't know why, but in case you want to know where Rock and Bark is, this is the exact same game. These guns have a recoil effect and can be fired as a single shot or a short burst. 4 series of targets appear sequentially on an oversized TV screen. So yeah, it is a screen. It's not a film projection. There's going to be balloons, tanks, pirates, and aircraft. A perfect score is 979 points. Game time is adjustable from 60 to 140 seconds. When a player, when played as a 2-player game, you can get a score of 800 points, or adjustable if you want to, because it has kind of a difficulty switch that you can change. Either player automatically extends the game if they get enough points by an additional balloon. So this one is yet another light gun shooting gallery game. It's also using a light gun. The 9th time we've seen a video game that's done this. There's been 4 that we've seen on the Magnavox Odyssey, and this one is the 5th light gun game that we've seen in the arcades thus far, like Laser Clay Shooting System by Nintendo, Wild Gunman, Balloon Gun, it's also by Sega, Quack that Atari did, those kinds of games are the ones we've seen so far. So this one does give you a little option or difficulty changing that you can make in the game. It's the 3rd game we've seen that allows you to do that after Flim Flam and Balloon Gun. So this advertisement flyer that I've been on for a long time, it's the same one in 2 different regions, but you notice it wasn't in Japanese. So it was released in other places besides just Japan. So this is the arcade cabinet. You can see there's some targets that are on the screen, and you have the guns to shoot everything, but it is it is the same concept and idea, but using Tommy guns would be awesome. I couldn't find any video footage or play of this to prove that this existed other than this advertisement flyer. Sega Retro has lots of information too, and that's where I got most of this from. And there's the there you go, the same arcade marquee, or two different ones showing two different systems. It looks like an even larger screen than the other one as well. So cool. I want to be able to play. We also have the manual for Bullet Mark. Tell us more about Bullet Mark. We have the intro, consists of the gun and the television, and it says 4 series of targets are going to appear sequentially on the TV screen: balloons, tanks, pirates, and jets. The easiest of the targets to hit are the balloons, and they get 7 points each. And this breaks down all the point values because the machine guns can be fired in a single shot or a burst shot, which I, again, would love to know because it has a recoil on the gun, so you can actually feel the gun going back. And remember, one of the very first light gun games we saw was Nintendo's laser clay shooting system. That was using real rifles with blanks, a completely different spectrum. Now we're getting more into, you know, a fabrication of a gun, not an actual gun. Nintendo knows how to bring the real guns, but Sega responds with Tommy guns, I guess. So we got some specifications here, but I don't think we have anything else. Yeah, installation instructions, so not anything else here, but you can see examples of the two different arcade cabinets as well. The upright version and then the two different parts that are connected. But you can see how large this is and why it would have been a failure too. This is yet another video game that is not using an arcade gameplay loop. Whenever you start this game, it's based on time. It's a time-constrained video game. This is the 15th time we've seen a video game using this to try to get you to have the highest score as possible, like Computer Space, Grand Track 10, Street Burners, Shark Jaws, and Anti-Aircraft. It does have an overlay. It's supposed to be black and white, but it looks like in color because of the overlay. The 42nd game we've seen with an overlay, and the 15th we've seen in the arcade so far. This one also has regional differences depending on which region you've played the game. It's known by different names, and it has different things that happen on the screen. The third time we've seen a video game with regional differences after Ramtex Baseball and Western Gun or Gunfight. We haven't seen Gunfight yet, but it's pretty close. This is also the 137th discrete logic video game. No microprocessor was used for this, and the 19th game we've seen from Japan thus far, which means if I can't have gameplay footage, there is no simulator for this. There is no way to play this. We got to give this one a no rating, but fascinating concept and fascinating to see Sega, Nintendo, and all these other companies making light gun video games right now in 1975. All right, after that, let's see what our next game is. Our next video game is still in the arcades. This is Maneater, also released at some time in October 1975. The 140th game we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. I'm already excited. Jaws is a big hit, and we already saw Shark Jaws, so what's Maneater all about? Let's take a look at the advertisement flyer for Maneater. Get your teeth into Maneater, video terror. The bite will be profitably tasty, because we want to be able to get as much money as possible. This one is the 107th arcade game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming, and the very first time we've seen this company, Project Support Engineering. This offers, again, a single-player mode and a multiplayer competitive mode. We're now seeing more play modes with video games rather than just having to have another person. Maneater is an action game in which players control a swimmer in shark-infested waters. To score points, the swimmers need to collect an item at the bottom and bring it back to the surface without being eaten by a shark. The game can be played with 1 or 2 players. And you can see here lots of options around the outside. And this is one example of the arcade cabinet. This one looks like a traditional arcade cabinet, but the other one is this one. It looks like an open shark. I don't know which one was first, though. Was this the first cabinet, or was that the first cabinet? Take advantage of the Jaws rage, it says here on this one, and video terror. Yeah, the advertisement and the way that this is marketed with the arcade cabinet is awesome. I have never seen an arcade cabinet like this. This is special. This is amazing. Here's an example from the video game archive of Steven Spielberg at a Maneater arcade, and I don't know if this is a fabrication or not, but Steven Spielberg playing a Jaws-like game, Maneater, that's pretty special. I love it. So here's the arcade cabinet. We can see a little bit more detail. It is an open shark. It's awesome that they were able to manufacture this. That one's a little bit dirty. There we go. We cleaned up with this other screenshot, and you can see it's the screen is another black and white screen with an overlay over the front, and then the controls on the inside. If you look at the joystick, it's using analog joystick to move and control your swimmer on the screen. Look at the ball bearing on the inside. So it's not a digital joystick. Very, very nice. Just so you need to put some coins in and press start. And there you go. There's the arcade marquee for Maneater with an example of the screenshot. Rough looking example of the screenshot. Now, I did find some gameplay footage. So this is from Michael Russo, and I'm going to include a link down below if you want to see more about videos that he's posted. But this is a very rare video of the game in progress and how the game is played. While you're looking at this game, they're about to start. He's going to play. They're going to play together a 2-player mode of the game, and the point of the game is you're a swimmer that's going down to the bottom, picking something up and bringing it back to the top. This marks the very first time we've seen a video game where you are transporting something to get points. So you actually have to go get something, pick it up, then bring it back to the surface to get your points. It's the very first time we've seen any video game do that. It's also the second time we've seen any video game that's swimming, that has sharks, that has scuba diving or snorkeling, that's underwater, and was inspired by a movie, i.e. Jaws, because of course we saw Shark Jaws just last time. It's the second time we've seen a video game using an analog joystick after football, so this joystick control is very rare too. It's the 36th time we've seen a video game with absolute control, which means when you move that joystick around and go up, down, left, and right, the swimmer is moving all the direction you move the joystick. It's the 20th time we've seen a video game from this view, a side perspective, and it's the 16th video game utilizing, again, a time constraint. So how long can you last and how far can you go on the amount of time? And that's why they were able to play with a single-player mode. Same thing we saw with Shark Jaws, Street Burners, Grand Track 10, and games like that. This is the 43rd time we've seen a graphic overlay that's assisting the video game, and the 16th time we've seen that in the arcades. It is yet another video game that has no microprocessor, the 138th we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming, and the 110th game that we've seen released in North America thus far. I don't have a simulator to play it myself, but from the gameplay footage, I can understand the mechanics and how it works, but I'd love to see how the joystick control feels with this compared, of course, to Shark Jaws. All right, so we have to give this one a no rating once again and press forward on this crazy quest to see what in the world is next. But now we have to see the very first advertisement and commercial I've ever seen from Atari.
Oh, sir, we like this Super Pong by Atari.
I'm sold out.
Nice.
That's a demonstrator, but I've got lots of these.
Well, we want Super Pong by Atari.
Yes, but this-
Super Pong's 4-color
He knows
games
his
are more
Pong.
fun.
Well, how about this one?
Well, no, you see, we'll have more fun with Super Pong's 4-color games. There's Catch, Solitaire, Super Pong, and Pong. So we'll take this one.
Okay, sure you won't change your mind?
No. Why?
Because I wanted it.
Super Pong. It's not just another video game. It's a real Atari.
That's right, it's a real Atari. Ladies and gentlemen, the very first time that Pong officially came home is right here at sometime in October 1975. When I first started doing this show and this channel, I originally said I wasn't going to do dedicated consoles, but I have to give an homage to Pong officially coming home. Now, if you look over on the left side, I have a few things that I've posted because the very first time Pong came home, it was not done by Atari themselves. They partnered with Sears. That's why we see amalgamation of some Sears things over there and Atari things over there. This one is a dedicated console. It's probably the only time you'll see me do a dedicated console on Chronologically Gaming, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. This one is the 141st game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. At this point, there's been 107 games we've seen in the arcades, and then there's been home consoles. This one is a dedicated home console. In other words, whenever you play this, you're only playing Pong. That's it. There's not even game modes or variations. It's just Pong. This one is part of the official series of Pong. We first saw it originally in November 29th, 1972, and then since then, in the Pong series, we've seen Pong Doubles, Elimination, Super Pong, Quadra Pong, Pin Pong, and this is the first time that they brought it home. Let's check it out together, starting with the box. Now, the very first box you ever would have seen is this one, the Telegames box, because following Pong's arcade triumph, Atari began exploring how to bring the game into people's homes. At this time, we've heard about 2 or 3 dedicated home Pong consoles, but they imitate more of the brown box or Magnavox Odyssey rather than Atari's Pong. In 1974, Bushnell tasked engineers Harold Lee and Bob Brown with developing a prototype for a dedicated home version of Pong. They worked with Al Alcorn on this. It needed to be affordable, compact, and able to connect directly to a television, a very ambitious goal given the technology at the time. The key breakthrough came when the team developed a custom single-chip design that could replicate the arcade Pong experience without the need for expensive components. This was a major technical innovation. While the original arcade Pong used dozens of discrete logic chips, the home version condensed the entire game into one chip, significantly lowering the production costs. However, Atari faced a major challenge: distribution. The company was still small and lacked the retail connections needed to sell a consumer electronics product on a large scale. Bushnell approached several department stores and toy companies, but many were skeptical. Eventually, he struck a pivotal deal with Sears, Roebuck & Company, one of the largest retailers in America at the time. Sears agreed to carry the system under their TeleGames label and place a massive order for the 1975 holiday season. Atari scrambled to meet demand, assembling units around the clock. When the home Pong console hit store shelves in October 1975, it was an immediate sensation. Over 150,000 units sold that holiday season alone, far exceeding expectations. The success of home Pong demonstrated the enormous potential of video games as a form of home entertainment. It helped establish Atari as a leader in the industry and paved the way for the development of the Atari 2600 and the broader home console market that would explode in the following years. So this right here is Atari's 24th time we've seen them do anything as a company. They've done 23 games that we've seen in the arcade so far, including, I guess, Syzygy Entertainment when they did Computer Space. This game, which we're not going to be able to play ourselves because, it's we need a simulation to play it, is multiplayer competitive only. You can't play single-player Pong with this one. You have to have someone else to play. It is the 81st time we've seen a ball and paddle video game, and it is... at this point, we've seen 74 variants or clones of Pong. This is official Pong, but out in the wild, there exists at least 74 clones of Pong. And they use the control that most people associate with video games right now. This is the 91st video game that is using paddles to control the action and controlling your paddle on the screen. And because it's not using a microprocessor, it's the 139th game that's using discrete logic yet again. And it's the 111th game released in North America. And now, if I may, I'd like to show you my tribute to the rest of the standalone Pong consoles. Now, in this whole demonstration, there is going to be a few different home Pong consoles and standalone consoles that mimic a little bit of what the Magnavox Odyssey does. We're trying to play the consoles that allow you to switch out games, like with chips, cartridges, cards, and so forth. And so there's a few of these that are similar to Magnavox Odyssey, but the rest of these you're about to see are all just Pong. This is a small sample, by the way. I'm only showing you probably a fifth of all the Pong that's available as home consoles. And one of the reasons why we on Chronologically Gaming are not playing and showing every single standalone dedicated console that's out there. Ready, set, go. Oh my gosh. From all countries, regions. There's even some official ones. It's all Pong. Some with different game modes and switches, but it's still all Pong. Standalone, dedicated consoles. Some really big ones, influential ones. Some even have some light gun technology like the Magnavox Odyssey, but it's still all dedicated consoles. Oh, wow. There's even a sample of the brown box, which brings us to the one showcasing today, the original, very first TeleGames Pong that was released at home. Yet another video game we can't rate ourselves, so I'll have to give it a no rating and say goodbye to dedicated consoles. Will we see any more here on Chronologically Gaming? Well, only time will tell, but for the most part, no. We're going to have to skip those because there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of dedicated consoles. All right, with that, let's see what our next game is. Our next game is bringing us back into the arcades. This is Ski. Just 3 letters, ski. Let's check out ski, starting with the advertisement flyer. This one is released also at sometime in October 1975. It's our 142nd game that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. This one is only in the arcades. It's the 108th arcade game we've seen so far, and this one's by Allied Leisure Industries, the 9th time we've seen this company doing games like Robot, Football, Street Burners, and right now, if you were to tell me which one was the company that was on top, Atari is obviously a very much on top, but Allied Leisure Industries, I would say, is a worthy competitor to Atari. Ski is a skiing game in which players must move between flag checkpoints. The game is shown in a top-down view and controlled in an alternate way. The player holds a stationary ski stick and uses his twist for his lower body to rotate the floor plate to change the direction of the on-screen skier. The ski sticks can be tilted to change the speed of the skier. So I don't believe this exists because I've never knew or heard about an arcade skiing game that's using the technology that I was familiar with in arcades years later, decades later. This is the very first time a video skiing game is having you pretend that you're skiing. It even has the floor plates that you're twisting left and right, and you're pretending to hold on to skis. This one is obviously a single player only game. There is no multiplayer modes whatsoever. It's the second time that we've seen a skiing or snowboarding game on Chronologically Gaming after Magnavox Odyssey. I mean, where else? Magnavox Odyssey has so many sports games. They have skiing too, but not like this. This is more like real skiing. It's controlled with actual ski sticks and a floor plate that twists. The very first time we've seen this, and again, I didn't know this existed before I was doing the show. We're going to see lots and lots of arcade games using this formula, but this is the very first time it happened. It's also the second time we've seen a auto-scrolling two-dimensional game. It scrolls vertically up and down. Second time we've seen that after Steeplechase, because it was auto-scrolling to the left and right. But there is scrolling that we've seen with Street Burners, with Speed Race and things like that. Because there's other scrolling like Highway and Speed Race DX and Wheels, but they are dependent on you driving a car. This one just keeps on scrolling, and you need to make the movements to go through the pylons as the skier. It's yet another video game, the 17th we've seen, that has a time constraint. How many can you ski through within the amount of time and get a higher score? It is the 44th game we've seen that has an overlay to assist on the graphics, the 17th game with an overlay that we've seen in the arcades, and it still has no microprocessor, the 140th discrete logic video game, DTL or TTL, and the 112th game that's been released in North America. The reason I'm staying on this screen is this is all the information I have to prove that this video game existed. One picture of the advertisement flyer. I have no gameplay or actual footage of people with this cabinet. I have no idea how rare this is. This is yet another video game that I would love to know the difference between rarity, because we've gone into the trenches of video games. We've seen the rarest of the rare, and this might be one of them too, because I have no proof of someone standing by a cabinet. I have no picture proof of anything else besides this one screenshot. That's how rare this one is. So we can't play this one either. I have no information or simulator that we can play, so we got to give this one a no rating as well. So many video games out there. All right, let's see what our next game is. Our next video game is still in the arcades. Let's see what Avenger is all about. This is one that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming, so we're going to go through a little bit faster for this one. Here's the advertisement flyer for Avenger, or one of the advertisement flyers. Released in the beginning of November 1975, Avenger is the 143rd game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. This game is only found in the arcades, the 109th arcade game so far, and it's by Elektra Games, the 4th time we've seen this company doing games like Video Action, UFO Chase, and Pace Car Pro. It was also released by Taito in 1976, the 14th time we've seen Taito here on Chronologically Gaming. And I'm going to show you some more of the artwork. This one has a really nice arcade cabinet, very large and wide. Avenger is Elektra's new jet fighter game. This one is special and something we haven't seen before. The brightest new in Elektra games, and I think this is the advertisement flyer we saw the first time around on the live show. Avenger, the boldest jet fighter ever to roam the skies. Oh yeah, it has lots of features you can see on the back. first single-player game to feature 3 plays for 2 quarters. And we've seen more games start to do this, where if you can play well enough, then you can actually get more time to play or more lives, and more games are incorporating that. I love that. So cool. There's the example of the arcade cabinet, or what Avenger looks like. Take a look at that joystick. We have an afterburner button, which is that large red one on the left, and then the start button is on the right. There you go, the control panel, you can see the afterburner button a little bit better there. Now, this joystick just looks pretty worn down. I don't think this is the way the actual joystick would have looked in 1975, but I'll take what I can get as far as screenshots go. There's the arcade marquee, and then the Avenger advertisement flyer when it was released by Taito. I love it. Flip it over the back, and they actually have a screenshot. Take a look at that for the game itself. The gameplay footage, I have the screenshot of the game to show you what would look like with the planes, because there's really not a lot of information on this one either. I have some footage of Avenger, but this footage is from a broken Avenger arcade cabinet, so you have to kind of use your imagination. But that's how difficult it is to find this game. I'd love to be able to play this one too. So there's a new machine in town that's got gamers at full throttle, Avenger, the latest from Electra Games. And let me tell you, it's a blast at 30,000 feet. This upright arcade cabinet puts you in the pilot seat of a top-down jet fighter. Using smooth analog joystick, you control your aircraft's speed and position as enemy fighters scream down from above. The game scrolls vertically, a rare trick that gives Avenger an intense sense of motion. And those clouds, they actually move beneath you, giving you the feeling of soaring through the sky. In black and white, sure, but it has an overlay making it look blue. You got 2 buttons, one to fire and another labeled afterburner. Hit that and your jet zooms forward just enough to dodge an incoming bogey or line up a perfect shot. It's fast, it's twitchy, and it keeps you coming back for just one more flight. As you rack up points, your rank increases from a humble crop duster to a feared Avenger. It's like a simple mechanic, but it makes every game feel like a climb to the top. And so this one, I'd love to have a simulator or a way to play this, but we really don't have that. We do have a manual that we found, and it's showing a little bit more information about how you play this game. The reason why this is special, it's a single-player only game. There's no multiplayer modes whatsoever, but this is the very first shoot-'em-up. Scrolling shoot 'em up on Chronologically Gaming, and we define a shoot 'em up by the games you're familiar with from 1942 to Xevious to like all these games we're going to see later as let's scroll and shoot things. This is the very first scrolling shoot 'em up. It uses an analog joystick, which is still rare considering we just saw Maneater, but it's the 3rd time we've seen an auto-scrolling game like Steeplechase and Ski. And there is other scrolling, Speed Race out there, Highway, Street Burners, Speed Race DX, and Wheels 2. And I'm looking at the manual to see if they tell us more information about the gameplay itself, but doesn't look like it. Shows the setup, game operation. Oh, here we go. We got the play sequence right here. Play starts when the start button's pressed down, score resets to 0, and it's another video game that just is a timed game. So even though this is a shoot 'em up, it still is, you're timed on how many things you can shoot within that time limit, and then it's done. There is no save of the high score table. There isn't any arcade gameplay loop. As you can see, the score is accumulated to the total number of hits during the allotted game time. That's the thing. Obviously, players must shoot enemy planes down at the fastest speeds possible in order to obtain an Avenger rating. In addition to collisions with enemy planes must be avoided, since a collision results in a loss of time available to shoot down enemy planes. Collisions mean you lose time. It's all about time right now in 1975. All right, so that's also for that one. This one is the 18th video game that features a time constraint, the 45th game with an overlay, the 18th we've seen in the arcades. It is a vertical orientation game. I don't know if you saw from the gameplay footage. The 7th time we've seen portrait mode video game. And it's the 5th video game where you're piloting an airplane or an aircraft after Dogfight on the Magnavox Odyssey, Pursuit by Atari, Drop Zone 4, and Jet Fighter. Now, it's the 141st video game that does not have a microprocessor, and the 113th game released in North America. And if I could, I'd actually rather play this than Jet Fighter. We got to play Jet Fighter as a simulator, but this is the one I really would like to play as the first shoot 'em up. Maybe I'll find it in an arcade somewhere. But until then, I got to give this one a 0 rating. Of all the games you could play up to this point, Avenger, I would love to play it myself. All right, after that, let's see what our next game is. Still in the arcades, and it's another game we've seen already on Chronologically Gaming. This is Gunfight, released in the beginning of November 1975. And we're going to be going through just a few things because we've already seen and we've already played Gunfight. Let's take a look at the advertisement flyer. Gunfight. Awesome. This is the 144th game we've seen on Chronologically Gaming and the 110th game in the arcades. This is by Dave Nutting Associates. The very first time we've seen this company. Nutting Associates has already given us 5 games that we've seen. This was done by Dave Nutting and Thomas McHugh. Way to go, Dave and Thomas. And it was released later by Taito. The 15th time we've seen Taito on the show. I should say, not released later by Taito. It was released first by Taito, and then it was picked up by Midway. That's right, Midway. Midway is the one that published this one in North America. It's the 8th time we've seen Midway on Chronologically Gaming after Winner, Leader, Playtime, TV Basketball, Wheels, Baseball, and Wheels 2. And we've seen most of the artwork. Take a look at the arcade cabinet. The wood grain gives it that Western feel because we're going to be in a shootout. Love these scans. Excellent theme and artwork for this game. It is classic. And the control is unique and different, considering on the other games we've seen up to this point. There's the arcade PCB, and here's the control panel. Take a look at that. It's an 8-way joystick that moves your cowboy around. That's the left joystick. And then on the right side, you have an analog vertical joystick, which means it's able to move up and down in very precise aiming controls before you shoot your gun. Yeah, we don't need to see that one. But there's the arcade marquee for Gunfight. And yes, Midway is plastered all over the place. This game should not be confused with this. This was Sega's Gunfight, released in 1969. This is a mechanical video game and one of the very first human-to-human video games, or not video games, mechanical games that inspired Western Gun and inspired this game of Gunfight. That's right. This arcade cabinet, the one from 1969 by Sega, is a completely mechanical game. Look at that. They have the actual guns on the side. This is fascinating. I had no idea that this existed, but it also proves that Chronologically Gaming, we are checking out video games. And so before the age of video games, there was plenty of mechanical video games in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And this is one example that ended up inspiring Western Gun and Gunfight. I love it. You can see the artwork is very similar to what we have here by Midway as well. And then we also have some artwork and an example of the screenshot too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just go to the arcade and play Gunfight. Here we go yet again. Released by Midway, the beginning of November 1975. So step aside, Pong. There's a new sheriff in town. Fresh off the floor of local arcades and taverns, Gunfight, originally a Japanese title by Taito called Western Gun, but revamped and released in the US by Midway, brings players something we've never seen before. A digitized showdown between two cowboys, pistols drawn right on the screen. And what I'm going to do is go in to play, and you can see as soon as I hit start after putting a coin in, the timer starts, and now I just want you to hear something first. Listen to this. And then if I fire back and forth, this is a stereo video game where one channel is for one of the gunfighters and the other channel is for the other gunfighter. That's just for the sound part. We don't really get a lot of sound besides the shots. And folks, this ain't no paddle and ball affair. This is a full-on pixelated duel at high noon. Gameplay that feels like a saloon standoff. The concept is simple but electrifying. Two gunslingers, one on the left and one on the right, face off in a stark desert backdrop. Cacti and wagons dot the screen, providing cover. Each player controls a cowboy using dual joysticks, one for moving, the other for aiming and shooting. That's right, you can move and shoot in different directions. It's a huge step forward from the one-dimensional controls that we've been used to from a lot of those Pong games out there. The goal? Outshoot your opponent. The first to set a number of victories wins the match, and if you both shoot at once, whoever was quicker draws the point. It's tense, fast-paced, and makes for some serious corn-operated competition. This is also the very first arcade game to use a microprocessor, the Intel 8080 for all you tech heads out there. What does that mean for the average arcade goer? Smoother animations, smarter hit detection, and more responsive controls. It feels alive in a way that all these ball and paddle games just can't do. Graphics are black and white, but expressive. And you can see it has an overlay giving us a sepia tone as if it was a Western. It's still very impressive because we have hats flying off when a cowboy takes a bullet and bodies ragdoll in a surprisingly dramatic fashion. It's simple and effective, more animated than anything that we've seen so far. The sound is has the beeps for gunshots and scoring, but the stereo sound is what makes up for that. The arcade atmosphere feels like the bell on a saloon door. Unlike the pure reflex tests of Pong or the novelty of computer space, Gunfight introduces tactics. Do you hide behind the wagon and wait for your foe to make a first move? Do you run to in guns blazing, hoping to overwhelm them with speed? It's not just about being fast, it's about outsmarting your opponent, which has to be a human being. You cannot play against the computer on this game. That's why this game has legs. The more you play, the better you get. It rewards practice and precision. And so whenever you start this game, you notice there's still a timer in the top left, but you are using your shots to try to shoot the other cowboy the fastest. Once you get one shot, though, then it kind of resets the game. So notice that after we play, then it's like a Twitch game. How fast can you get the shot in to get the points, and they're keeping the score at the top of the screen. The score that you see, or I should say the score, shootout time, game time, and score, that's all part of the overlay. The rest of it is just the numbers and then the cowboys, which they're very large. And while it is only one color, it's impressive. Being the first game with a microprocessor, that's already impressive enough. Go. You got me. We also have a limited number of bullets. So after you use so many shots to try, then that's it. You can even hit the wagon. There's also not a lot of ricochet. There's a little bit. You can see on the bottom of the screen, the top of the screen, but there's not as many things as we saw in Western Gun. This one is a completely different game than what we saw for Western Gun. I also don't have a lot of freedom. As I move around the screen, I have a block on the left side, and the right side, I can't really go where the wagon is. So not as much freedom as we saw with Western Gun. Now that we've played both, I can compare between the two. So cool. So interesting. So Gunfight is more than just another arcade game. It's a bold step into the future, combining animation, strategy, competitive gameplay, and microprocessor power into one addictive machine. If this is what 1975 has in store, then I cannot wait to see what's around the corner. I would still give the nod to Western Gun as the better of the two now that I've checked out both. But I can still appreciate and understand where this one's coming from. This one is the 7th multi-directional shooter that we've seen on Chronologically Gaming. It's also another one of those dual shooters that we played. Most of the time they've been with spaceships up to this point, but now we're getting hand-to-hand combat. Only Western Gun and this one, Gunfight, are the only ones that are doing that right now. It's also in stereo, which is a plus. Has dual joystick control, which is very rare right now. It uses absolute control. You move that cowboy around wherever you move the joystick, that's where he's going to go. It's different from Western Gun in that the aiming of your shot is analog on this one. Whenever you played Western Gun, it was just one fixed position where your gun's going to shoot, but this one you can actually fine-tune your shot and be a little bit more precise. It's also a video game that's using a diagonal down perspective. Only Western Gun and Gunfight are doing that one. And obviously a regional difference. This is what we got whenever it was released in the United States or North America. Compared to Japan's, it was a completely different game. It's the 46th game with an overlay to assist the graphics, the 19th time we've seen that in the arcades. And this one is this one is the first microprocessor video game. And we've seen 141 video games that have used discrete logic. So there has been 141 games out there that you could play, and before we got to the first video game with a microprocessor. What a feat. And it's the 114th game released in North America. Now, because of where we've come, considering this backlog and replaying all the games, I'm going to re-rate Gunfight and say this one is a 4.5-star game. Of all the games you could play in the arcades right now, it's very impressive. It's very, very good and rare and a special treat, but I still give the nod to Western Gun as the better video game that you could play right now in the arcades, just by, half a star. All right, that's where we got to put our video game playing on pause. It was a lot of a showcase here on Chronologically Gaming. Next time on the Chronologically Gaming backlog, Destruction Derby. a racing game by Nintendo, and the first home console by Philips. That's it for today, and like I always say, the microprocessor has unlocked unlimited potential for video games. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every weekday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and let us know if we missed any games along the way. This video would not be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and MAME. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every single video game. We have links down below that'll send you to places like our Discord and Patreon, and one that says all the video games we've ever played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.